Hey everyone, I'm Nick and welcome to the channel. Today we're working on this 2017 Audi A3 and we're going to be doing an oil change without picking it up off the ground. Now, topside oil changes are a standard procedure for some cars, but you can actually do it on other cars as well. It's really convenient if you don't want to jack the car up or put it on ramps, or maybe you want to save a little bit of time if you have the tools. So let's take a look at what you need. So what we're going to use is this Harbor Freight pneumatic air operated fluid extractor. This one works with the air compressor. You see the line plugged in right there. But there's also a version that has a hand pump, so you can just have it as a standalone unit. It just takes a little more effort and time, but it's a lot quieter. So this is essentially, we're gonna feed this, this line into the dipstick tube down into the oil pan, and it's gonna suck out all the fluid. Now, if you've watched the channel before, you'll know that I like to follow torque specs, and when I can, follow the procedure from the manufacturer. And to do that, I like to get my hands on the factory service manuals, which goes through all the official procedures. It shows all the torque specs, how everything's assembled, and even like sometimes covers how things work together. It's really interesting to have. So this here is actually the factory service manual for this generation of Audi A3. So it covers a bunch of stuff from like wheels and tires, engine, electrical system, suspension and all that, transmission, really just everything you could think of. And it's a really good reference to work on your engine and know that you're doing it right. Now let's go take a look at the oil change procedure from the factory service manual. All right, so here we have the page on extracting the engine oil. So they have their specific Audi part here, but we'll be using the Harbor Freight one. The procedure is pretty simple. We pull out the oil dipstick, put the oil extraction tube into the oil pan, and there's a note here to keep in mind that if you push it in too far, it can deflect and it won't pull up all the oil, but I have a tip for that later. Extract the oil and put the dipstick back in. And then they do note, do the oil change at operating temperature, which is normal. Follow disposal regulations, just drop off your oil at the parts store, and pay attention to cleanliness. This is important, and yeah, well, you'll see. And then here there's a little section on changing the oil filter. We have a 2-liter engine, so we'll go to this, and you can see their parts list or tool list, torque wrenches, the torque spec, 25 Newton meters. You have to remove the engine cover, loosen the filter cap with a 32mm socket, and they also specify wait a short while so that the engine oil can flow out of the filter housing. Also important, as you'll see. And then we want to loosen the threaded connection, remove the cover, pull the filter out, and then we change the O-rings. So you got a couple O-rings on the filter holder and one on the cover as well that we'll be replacing. And then they do specify, coat the new O-rings with engine oil, make sure the surfaces are clean, and all that. So this is really useful. It's nice to see the official procedure. Now, if you're wondering where I got this, I actually got it from Emanual Online. And you can see there's all sorts of sections, DCT, 4 cylinders, all the different engines that were on this car, maintenance sections. It's 19,000 pages, so they also offer a bunch of other manuals, so you can actually just head to their website, emanualonline.com, type in your model. We have a 2017 Audi A3. Different options here, so you could look through that. We are in the just regular Audi A3. They've got information on that, and they have manuals for a bunch of other things as well. Now, if you want to go check out Emanual Online, I'll leave links in the video description, as well as a coupon code that you can use for an extra discount. Alright, so now that we've reviewed the procedure, let's go get it done. So the first step after removing the dipstick is to feed in the extractor tube. Once we feel the tube reach the bottom of the oil pan, we can move on to extracting the oil. Since we're using the extractor that uses compressed air to create a vacuum, we'll turn this valve to get started. If you're using the manual version, you can just start pumping. If you're using an air compressor, it'll probably kick on and shut off during the process depending on the size of the air tank. After about 13 minutes, we started sucking up air, so the extraction is done. We pulled out about 5.5 liters based on the marks on the extractor.
If you're not sure if you got enough oil out, you can try moving the tube in and out or up and down to see if it picks up more oil. When you remove the extractor tube, having a paper towel on hand will help avoid oil dripping onto the belt or the engine. And now we can put the oil dipstick back into place. To change the oil filter, first we need to remove the engine cover to get better access. It's held on by 4 clips, but once you've undone 3, you can pivot it out of the way. For our filter housing, the right size socket was 32mm, like it said in the service manual. Now if you remember the procedure, it says, wait a short while so that the engine oil can flow out of the filter housing. Now I'm not entirely sure what Audi means by short while, but apparently it's more than what we did.
Oh no, oh no.
When it's time to remove your oil filter, it might be a good idea to wait a few minutes once you've loosened it, and then hold a paper towel where the filter cap meets the engine. Here we put in a paper towel to soak up some of the leftover oil. To clean the side of the engine, we sprayed some brake cleaner. Now I do want to note that when oil gets on a belt, it's usually a good idea to replace it. For now, we made sure to wipe it off thoroughly. With the filter element out, we removed the filter retainer and changed its 2 O-rings. Then we replaced the large filter housing O-ring. If you're having trouble removing the old O-rings, I recommend using a pick to get them out. If you put a paper towel in the oil filter location, don't forget to remove it before installing the new filter. Tighten the filter by hand until it seats, then torque it to 25 Nm. Audi actually has the torque spec on the filter cap as well. We did some more cleaning to soak up the oil that settled on the under tray. Now it's time to fill up the engine with fresh oil. With the cap off, we can put in a funnel. Depending on the funnel you have, it may help to have an extra set of hands to hold it in place.
Son of a...
This has ended up being a much messier oil change than expected. This is a little out of focus, but you can skip the funnel if you're confident in your pouring skills, or if you can't get help holding the funnel. The oil we're using is Liquid Moly Molygen, which has some friction modifiers in it, and also happens to be green. We like it because it has molybdenum in it, but regular oil changes are the best way to keep your engine in good shape. Now we can check the oil level on the dipstick. And since it looks good, we can fire up the engine. What you heard when the engine first started up was valve train noise, and that went away once the oil reached the top of the engine. Now we can reset the oil change interval through the car's interface.
So you go to menu, you go to vehicle, then you go to service and checks, service intervals, and then you hit reset oil change interval. Yes. And it's reset.
We also had an inspection due notification, which we reset using a scan tool.
Yep. 200,000 miles, 730 days.
Before we wrap up completely, we'll check the oil level again now that we've run the engine. It was a little low, so we added more oil. No spills this time. We run the engine again. And now it's just over the max fill mark on the dipstick, which brings us to one of the advantages of using an oil extractor. You can remove oil a little at a time if there's too much. And with the correct oil level, we're done with our more eventful than expected oil change.
So that wraps up our topside oil change. It's really convenient and you can do it on most engines. So you just roll your car into your garage or walk out to your parking spot, suck out the oil, chuck some new oil in, and don't forget your filter, and you're good to go. So remember, suck it, chuck it, and put in a new filter, and you're good to go. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a like, and if you have any questions, let me know down in the comments. If you want to see more content like this, be sure to subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.